Welcome to Means of Grace, a podcast produced by the Western North Carolina Conference of the United Methodist Church.
Welcome to the Means of Grace podcast. I'm Brian Matier, the Associate Director of Missional Engagement for the Western North Carolina Conference. I'm joined today by Steve Cheney, the campus minister at UNC Charlotte, and also Dyron Clove, the campus minister at NC-A&T. Welcome, guys, and thank you so much for being on today. I'd love to start and just hear a little bit about your respective campus ministries and what maybe your normal ministry looks like in an abnormal time, I guess.
So yeah, thanks for having us. At UNC Charlotte, we have an ecumenical campus ministry. It's the most historic campus ministry at the university. Started in 1965. I'm, as the campus minister, responsible for 4 denominations. So obviously this, I believe, is a United Methodist podcast. And so as a United Methodist elder, I represent the Methodist Church on campus, but also in collaboration with the Episcopal, Lutheran, and Presbyterians. And so we really represent the mainline Protestant sector on campus, and we try to reach those students and many more. UNC Charlotte is, if you don't already know, is the fastest growing university in the Carolinas, one of the fastest growing universities in the country. And so there's a lot of work to be done here. We have a brand new chancellor. So we have exciting times on campus. Pre-COVID-19, we would worship weekly, twice a week on campus, numerous small groups and Bible studies, lots of service and outreach opportunities locally, internationally. And so we just try to connect the students to what we call consequential faith experiences. And that's sort of our model of discipleship. We try to reach hundreds of students every week. Since COVID-19, things have changed, but I'm sure, Brian, you'll get into that later.
I sure will, yes. Dyron?
Well, okay. I'm at North Carolina A&T, and I also serve as pastor of Metropolitan United Methodist Church. I've been in this role now for over 6 years. The campus ministry before I got here, there had been some issues with boards, and it didn't go as well as everyone had anticipated. And so over the last 6 years, I've been trying to grow both campus ministry and the church. And campus ministry has grown leaps and bounds. And before all of this, we were planning on having doing a great transition from some of our student leaders who just graduated to some new student leaders before COVID. And that's kind of set us back a little bit because the bulk of our student leaders are now graduated. And we really didn't have a chance. March and April were the moments where we were really going to get the upcoming upperclassmen ready for the fall. But before all of this, students came to the regular worship that I would do on Sundays at Metropolitan. We had a special Bible study and community opportunity on Tuesdays. We used to run a pantry, but A&T began to do it, and we didn't want to compete with A&T with our pantry. So we kind of moved everything there. And then some other small groups. We partner with a lot of different groups. One of the United Methodist Church starts the Good Neighbor movement. The A&T City Village was started through our real campus ministry in Metropolitan. And actually, we have a virtual Bible study tonight for that one. So we love to partner with different groups. The local elementary school, Washington Montessori Elementary School, we had students that went and volunteered to do for their beautification day this past school year. And so those are some of the things that we kind of do through the campus ministry.
I feel like 2020 has almost been a decade and a year. There's been a lot that's happened since the start of 2020. So I'd love for y'all to talk a little bit about, you're bouncing along how you normally do, and then March hits, and things have really changed in our world in the past several months. So tell me a little bit about how that what that looked like in your campus ministries, what that maybe led you to do differently, how you had to connect with your students when they were sent home. Some of those maybe challenges and some of those perhaps opportunities that opened up as well.
Yeah, for us at UNC Charlotte, I mean, like everyone, it hit us pretty hard and quickly. I think campus ministry is a really high risk environment. And the reason I say that is because we were headed to the Bahamas for Hurricane Dorian relief at the end of February. Our spring break was start the last day of February and then would take the first week of March. And I found myself in the hospital in ICU. I came down with bacterial meningitis. And so just being exposed to college students and college life on a daily basis, exposes us in lots of different risky situations, just even medically. And our team went, and I had staff and advisors. And so they went and had a great spring break without me, despite of my illness. But then I got out of the hospital, and then the world shut down. Literally, that the day I got out of the hospital was the start of the ACC tournament. I remember that. And I think Duke and NC State were supposed to start playing. And we were on campus, and we were having getting ready for worship and a midday worship service. And there were lots of questions being asked, and really like a whirlwind. Within a couple of hours, our campus basically went virtual, and everyone else followed suit. The things that I think we had to do at UNC Charlotte, which was probably similar to a lot of campuses, is we had to enter into that virtual world as well. I think that the church has done that really quickly. And higher education has done that very quickly, but campus ministry sort of stands in between the two in the liminal space. And so we're going virtual with the church, we're going virtual with higher education, and so we're watching the disruption of both worlds, not just watching, but participating intimately in the disruption of both of these worlds. So we quickly assimilate it into daily devotions written by our student leaders and staff. And I became more of an editor, and my theological emphasis became formation. Did you really mean to write that, or did you really mean to say that? How can you shape this better, or how can you shape this more spiritually? We started doing Zoom, lots of people, videos, and connecting to students. We were already connecting through Snapchat and through text messaging, GroupMe, but we just had to amp it up. We had to accelerate it exponentially. And I think the students really were facing the disruption. Mostly was just they're so connected, 18 to 22-year-olds, traditional age college student, they're so connected. It's such a close environment. College is really meant to be very intimate. You're always bumping into somebody, and so here they are, they're being told to go home, and they have to leave their stuff in the dorms, or they're sort of stranded in a big city. They may be from out of town, and they might not have the means to get back. The campus is shut down, but who's to say they even had financial resources to go home, even if maybe they even have a home to go to. And so I think that, on one hand, we had to care for our students in a spiritual pastoral manner, just like churches, but we also had to do it in a physical way, helping students move out, giving them advice toward mental health and wellness. And it was a very exhausting process. And so I don't think I really slowed down until late May, honestly. I'm sure, Diane, you probably had similar experience.
Yeah. And so the biggest thing for our campus ministry before was just that connection. We broke bread together. Normally, anytime students came anywhere near us together, and And so having that broken, those intimate, small conversations, it's so hard to replicate that in the virtual world. And so then the students, and most of my talking with them, those who were kind of leaders, they were burnt from doing classes virtually, Zoom. If any of them were participating in the church experience, it was like, we love connecting, but we're tired. They call me PD. PD, we're tired of looking at a computer screen, and campus ministry was never that for us. And so most of my contact has been primarily similar group me, and just trying to figure out what's going on with students, where they are, messaging them just to see personally, for the ones that still stay in contact that haven't graduated, and then not even to be able to truly celebrate with the graduates, because a few had been with us like their beginning of the end of their freshman year, and not to be able to celebrate that graduation time with them was a little difficult, especially one in particular that had been pretty much did a lot, even with our pantry and everything. And so that stung. And so now just trying to figure out how do we still are more junior, I guess, senior campus ministry currently, and how do I reach out to freshmen, sophomores, and the first encounter would be maybe possibly virtually. That's a difficult, and I've been praying over it and trying to figure out, when they start reporting, if we can just tend within our space, socially distance, and just trying to figure out how that flow will work out, but not putting our volunteers who help a lot with our campus ministry at stake either, since some of them are a little older. So this is just reimagining how do you connect is a part that I've struggled with. Church-wise, it's a whole lot easier because most members of a church don't have to be on virtual every day. And so my students just figuring out as they begin to return, like even helping them. That was a big part of what our ministry would try to do, is help students get back into their dorms, and not being able to really even do that currently.
He mentioned reaching out to new students. And I think that's a struggle that every campus ministry across the country is trying to figure out. I mean, in a normal year, we probably would have to reach about 30% of what you would consider our congregation, maybe 35% just to sustain, just to be where we are, because we lose about 30% of our students every year to graduation or transfer or dropping out of college. And so, I mean, there's no church in the country, no new church plant that has to do that, right? Mm-hmm. And just the mere fact of trying to figure out how you're going to reach 30% just for sustainability, no growth. So like, let's say 50%, and you've never met these students, and then you're going to have to socially distance, like, and maybe do it virtually. Brand new students. I mean, we've been trying to reach out to churches. Hey, send your students our way. That really rarely ever works. But I think all campus ministries across the country are having to think of innovative ways to reach out to our high school seniors who didn't graduate, by the way, And so it's not only reaching a new student, it's reaching a student we've never had that type of experience with at all. So it's daunting times ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I was thinking about when you were talking, Darren, is my own elementary school kids. They're connected virtually, but the thought of them being on Zooms or another Zoom for whatever reason it is, it's just it's a tough ask right now. So I resonate with the challenge that you guys are facing as your students return to school. Um, One of the things that both of you mentioned was kind of the mental health aspect. Everybody's experienced loss of some kind. It could be, physical loss. It could be health loss. It could be loss of graduation, loss of friendship. Lots of losses that this COVID pandemic has brought to the forefront. Can you share some ways that maybe you're helping in the midst of that, or your campus ministry is helping with the mental health aspect of the students that you're in ministry with?
So a lot of the students who I reached prior always had to work anyway. I've had so many who, like over the years, let's say the sophomore year, they were almost at everything, but then they were like, well, I have to pick up a part-time job. And one of our student leaders in particular, like when everything hit, I'm still having to pay for off-campus housing, but she had asthma. And so she had to tell her job that was, one was essential. And so they still were able to come in, but she didn't want to put herself in that position. And so then it's the stress of, will I get kicked out? And these things. And so just to be a listening ear, offering support, being that we weren't having a lot of our meal participation anymore, that did a good amount of our budget, but then the budget got cut a little bit. So just to try to give financial assistance and allowing students to know everything is, we're going to try our best to help you out even during all of this. But yeah, that mental toll of having some who were going back into, at that moment, hotspots. I know one, she was going right back into Detroit. And Detroit at the time when school was letting out was a heavy hit area, especially within her community. And so just hearing some of the stories of loved ones getting COVID and dealing with that became a lot on me. I know hearing some of these stories, just it was mentally, it was becoming, I thought I needed to go through some counseling periods because I'm trying to keep a strong face and a good and encouraging spirit. But, to hear heartbreak after heartbreak became a little daunting after a while. Now I'm a little bit better with it. But I just know in that initial, that probably around April, I was spiritually and mentally drained from some of the messages I was getting.
Yeah, I would concur. It's overwhelming the amount of students who, once you say, "Hey, I'm available," you can text me, you can call me, you can FaceTime, and if you've built that trust up with them, they've started to take it. And to get the 3 a.m. text or the call that there's a mental breakdown or there's a crisis, and then you feel in a lot of ways powerless. First of all, you can't go to them, right? Or they can't come to you. You can't meet somewhere. Sometimes it's getting a call from an ER nurse because I tell students to call me Steve, but a lot of them have Pastor Steve under their emergency contact. And I didn't even know this, right? And then I get a call from the ER because a student who has contemplated suicide and is in the ER at 4 a.m. in the morning, and I'm getting a call from the nurse because Pastor Steve is in, her contact. But I think there's a lot of, as pastors, as, college ministers, there's a lot of helplessness. I feel like I can't do enough, I wish I could be there and walk with you through this process. And I think that this probably is, similar to the way church pastors feel as well. We can't necessarily grieve with you directly. So we're doing it from a distance. But the sheer number of students who have had COVID-19 on our campus or have spread it knowingly or have lost loved ones of it or have lost their jobs or are working in these hotspots like Darren is saying, or having family breakdowns and can't, talk to their parents or grandparents, or there's been some type of disagreement or relationship issues, breakups. It's mind-boggling to know the amount and just to see, firsthand sort of the brokenness of what's going on. And as a campus minister, you just have to try to be available to listen. There's not much else we can do right now.
I'd like to shift gears a little bit, but thank you both for that. I appreciate your walking with students in a unique time. I think one of the things that I'm noticing is, campus ministry. There's a high rate of turnover just because of graduations and transfers and those sorts of things, and your students go somewhere and then return to campus, hopefully. So you have a different challenge than many people do, just during a regular time, much less during a pandemic. So, I want to lift you guys up and let you know that we appreciate what you're doing and walking with students. I would like to shift gears a little bit, and we talked a lot about what happened and some about how the summer is, but what does campus ministry look like returning? I know some colleges have returned. Some students are going back. What is it going to look like in your context? What are some of the maybe the opportunities that this has opened up, if there are, and then some of the new innovative things that you're doing to reach students?
We at UNC Charlotte, we start back on Labor Day. So I think we start the latest of the 17 schools in the UNC system. So we're excited, but I want to hear from Darren first, because we're going to learn from those who start back earlier. We want to see what everybody else is doing. We feel like that's an advantage for UNC Charlotte.
For us, one of the things being that we are directly on campus, I have been paying attention. Actually, one of my members of the church, who's a faculty member, gave me the link for the faculty and staff call that they had yesterday for A&T. And so I'm just trying to figure out, because I know it's a great opportunity, because there were other campus ministry and churches that would have done buses and things like that to get students to the church, but they're not able to do that anymore. And so being that we're directly on campus, it gives us an opportunity. But that's why I was saying with the volunteers, we were going to try to, have some outside things in the cool of the day. But then how do I control the size, make sure social distancing stays in effect? And so that's where I'm still working through some of those things. Again, I had a lot of volunteers who were older even than I am, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I need you not to be here at all. And so just trying to do that on a lot on my own. This is like going back to my first couple years of being campus ministry, where it was the brunt of growing. It was all on me. I do have an assistant, and so me and her are trying to figure out those kinds of building leaders. But I know we're going to try to do a bunch of smaller outside and using maybe the fellowship hall of the church as well, where we can keep those numbers to under 10 that'll actually go inside and things like that. That's where we are. I'm like Steve, just trying to learn from those who may have the resources to do it a little bit differently than even I am. But I'm also going to watch these first 2 weeks when school starts back. I'm really going to watch what is going to happen. I know A&T is doing everything in their power to keep everyone safe, but when you have freshmen who this is their first time away from home, I know they may be a little bit more risk taking. I'm prepared to be very observant and be on campus every day, but of course, protected and everything. But I plan on once the students start coming back to just see what the needs are and what we can do to really see how we can grow the ministry. Because even I believe a lot of the students who were part of our ministry, who I may expected to do some leadership, they're going to do more virtual and won't even return back to A&T for the fall.
Is there a sense from you how many students will not be returning? I mean, is it a major difference than kind of your normal year to year in your estimation, or do you have any idea about that?
I believe it's going to be a substantial amount that won't, especially being that a lot of these upper class, if there won't be a need for them to return. I'm going to lose a lot from that are not returning at all. They still said they would be willing to do what they can virtually, but again, to grow this, you have to make those contacts, and virtually is just first time contacts virtually is a real hard sell for a lot of students.
Steve, how about you?
Yeah, so assuming that we still have on-campus events, right? I mean, people are moving in right now. And by the time September rolls around and UNC Charlotte is supposed to begin, things may change. This is a fluid situation. But assuming that people will be on campus, we're slated to have the highest number of freshmen on campus in the history of UNC Charlotte. The dorms will be packed full. Apartment complexes around campus are packed. That doesn't mean that all these students will be in physical classrooms. Some will be hybrid, some will be totally virtual. But the campus will be crowded, assuming that they're going to keep the dorms open. I think it's important for us as a campus ministry to be very present, like Darren mentioned, as long as we're not responsible for creating a hotspot. But hotspots may occur just because of the mere fact that these people will be gathered on a college campus. So these are little cities, or big cities, actually, you know. So we're committed to following all the the university protocols, wearing masks, socially distancing, etc. But it looks like we're going to do a lot of outdoor stuff. We're working with the university right now, trying to have negotiations with them as a campus ministry to really be an exclusive provider of outdoor ministry in a way, and not utilize classrooms. They're already being taped off, etc. So it looks like there'll be a lot of hot days with worship in the hundreds, because September on college campus in Charlotte in the South is just going to be miserably hot. And so we're looking at the possibility of semi-permanent structures on campus dedicated solely to campus ministry space, which would be a first for UNC Charlotte. It's not official. We're just looking at it, negotiating with the university. But on top of that, for the students who don't feel comfortable coming, they may be across the street, they may be down the road, but also trying to do a better job of recording our worship, trying to offer more things online. We're starting a podcast as well that specifically will have college students discuss faith and life while in college. We're trying to amp up our social media, trying to make Instagram, instead of an event-based, hey, come to worship, more of a spiritual formation tool. And so we're working toward all these things. The crazy thing about it is that it's just so fluid, right? So things could change tomorrow. So it's almost like we have a plan A, B, C, D. We have so many plans that our student leaders, we have a leadership team of like 22 students, and they keep coming to me and to my staff, and they're asking, what's the university say about this? Or what's the university say about that? I'm like, well, it depends. Are you asking right now, or you want to know at 2:00 this afternoon? And so we just have to be, I think it teaches the people of God to be really flexible. Ministry in the trenches is about flexibility. And so if anybody is prepared to do this, this is campus ministry. So I do feel comfortable in that sense, that we're surrounded by a great group of students and supporters and board members who want to live into this and sort of understand what it means to be in ministry. And so it's a really exciting time in that sense.
I wonder if you guys might think of any big shifts this might bring about in campus ministry. An article I read that it's talked about how businesses and churches need to be adaptive, and if they're not going to be adaptive in this time, then they very well could get left behind. So, what can you share about that may change how you do things in the future with campus ministry?
Well, I know from my own experiences that we are good at trying things, and if they don't work, we just wipe our hands clean and try something new. And so I think that flexibility in campus ministry allows us not to get bogged down with desperate situations, and we have a lot of hope. And so who knows what the big shifts will be, right? But I think that we're prepared to maybe see them before the church does. In our case, at UNC Charlotte, it's a isolated campus in the sense that it's surrounded by highways on all four sides. It's impenetrable. And so that means there's no thoroughfare, there's no church on campus, there's no businesses on campus, that there's no campus ministry center on campus, and there never has been. And so there's no Wesley Foundation, there's no Newman Center for Catholic, there's no Hillel House like Duke would have, or Harvard or what have you. But if we are able to have a structure on campus that's semi-permanent, just like a tent or a shelter dedicated to campus ministry, then suddenly we become front and center on this campus. Because why? We offered it. We said, hey, this is something that this campus needs. It's not just for campus ministry use. We'll open it up. We'll let Hillel, we'll let the Muslim Students Association come. We'll let UREC do yoga classes. We'll let you do classrooms, and class spaces in here. And so it's the church offering something to the public institution because we know that it's a need. And so we've always had a good relationship with UNC Charlotte, but I'm telling you what, just by offering this, and we don't have the money. We're going to have to beg, plead, and, ask for this money if they say yes. But just the fact that we decided to offer it, I think is a goodwill gesture, letting the institution, letting the academy know that campus ministry is not here for its own personal gain, but it's here for the spiritual and the welfare of the students and the faculty and staff in the community. So I think that's a game changer alone. And it's allowed us to have discussions with a broader community, the staff particularly, because campus ministry has always been good at dealing with students. It's always been good at dealing with faculty, but probably less so nationally dealing with the staff of the university. I'm just speaking not for UNC Charlotte, but just like in general. And so I think that's hopeful. If this works at UNC Charlotte, these folks will write it up in the Chronicle for Higher Education. It will go out, and then other campuses may follow suit. And so, when they were building the Wesley foundations on campuses back in the 1950s and 60s, maybe this is what will happen in 2020, 2030. That's maybe one step.
For me as well. I know we love. I've tried a bunch of different things, and I think the flexibility of me coming and not having certain things established gave me that opportunity just to try. And if it failed, similar to Steve's case, I just try something different. And us being right on campus gives us that. Again, I look at it as a great opportunity for us. I don't know what the shift may be, but I know where students can just walk to the space that we have gives us a great opportunity to do things that others aren't doing. And I'm using this as a season of learning. I mean, I know even with changing worship, the students who were part of campus ministry were the ones who I kind of even talked to about certain changes that we were making within the realm of the church, of what would be something, if we did this, would you come, and things like that. And so I'm going to still use this as an opportunity to figure out, to ask, with a lot of classes on virtual. I like doing live, Zoom type things because it's more live. But if that's not working, doing podcasts, making things available later on, if that's a better format, using the students to say, yeah, because I might want to look at something at 2 a.m. and to give that opportunity, it puts a lot on me to just try to figure out good content. But I think I'm ready for that type of challenge. And it's a good challenge because I know no one has a market on it already. Everybody's trying to figure it out, and to be able to figure it out now. And I'm really like in the heart of campus. I'm excited about the opportunity that it's presenting to me.
Well, one thing's for sure, even in the midst of unknown and uncertainty, that campus ministry and churches still offer the hope of Jesus to those around them. It may look a lot different than what it has, and it may be more virtual. But I just want to thank you guys for what you're doing. If there's somebody listening right now, or a church that might be wanting to help you out, what are some ways maybe that they might be able to do that beyond maybe their prayers for campus ministry leaders and students? What are some specific ways that churches and individuals could help and support what you guys are doing?
Well, thanks, Brian. Just by listening to this and being in prayer for us does mean a lot to us. We do feel the connection of the United Methodist Church for sure. But yeah, we'll always gladly take donations. We need the support of individuals. The conference apportionments pay for part of our campus ministry sustainability, but not all of it. So I know that in our case, and Darren will say where to send his donations to, but in our case, you can go online to ninerunited.org and just support us financially. It means the world to us, but it also allows us to be at one of the most critical places and times of a person's life, and that's on the college campus. Also, send us the names of those students who are on campus. Let us know if you have a faculty member or staff member who is part of the campus community. If you have an alumni or someone who's connected to our particular college or wherever, just let that campus minister know. That connection is really important, especially in the world we live in. There's a lot of separation between church and state, which is rightfully so, but sometimes we just don't know if that professor or that the person who is in charge of, janitorial services, we didn't know they were Methodist, and that would be really helpful for us. And so those ways are key, to support and to sustain campus ministry for sure.
Absolutely. For me, I mean, if they definitely prayers, but as Steve may mention too, we will always take financial support. And also the students. This year was maybe one of the first years that I received some information from some of the students who have graduated, who will be coming into A&T. And so that has been great. So definitely that. And they can message wfem.info@gmail.com. And That way we can get all of that information to them. Our ministry was more, we have Instagram through our pantry, and it was a lot of group me type stuff. But now we're realizing we're definitely going to have our internet presence a little stronger. And so that's one of the things that we are working with currently.
Great. Thank you. We'll put those your contact information in ways that people can connect with you in the show notes, so that people will have them. But again, thank you guys so much for what you're doing on our college campuses. Thank you for your time today with the podcast, and I for one will be in prayer for you guys as you move into this fall.
Thank you for listening to Means of Grace, a podcast produced by the Western North Carolina Conference of the United Methodist Church. We hope you enjoy listening to these podcasts and use them as a way to stay connected to our community. Remember to subscribe to Means of Grace for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please leave us an honest rating and a review. It helps others find this podcast. Follow the WNCC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WNCCUMC. Once again, that's at WNCCUMC. Means of Grace is produced by the Western North Carolina Conference of the United Methodist Church and Andy Go of Gojo Studios.